the final episode tomorrow. So let's see. How many episodes do I have left?
You're about, I don't know, 50 something, maybe, give or take?
50 episodes left,
Something like that.
and each one is
22
30. We'll
minutes.
say.
It's,
Well, I was adding ads.
yeah. It's like, it really winds down to, like, technically, like, about 20 minutes, actually less than 20 minutes of new material per episode because anime's intros take a very long time, their X's take a long time. If you really want to cut down on those, you can. It's probably about 15-ish minutes from the of like actual content.
So let's see. 50 episodes.
Also, 50 was a
Um,
guess. I do not know the
oh,
exact number.
so roughly 3 episodes an hour. 3 an hour. I need 16 hours to get through this entire show in time. Piece of cake. It's
Nope.
already noon.
I was
I think I
wrong.
might be a little cooked.
I was way
I'm,
wrong.
oh God.
You know how I said 15, or
Mm-hmm.
you're like 50 behind? I actually Googled it, and there's um, it's probably closer to 140.
Oh,
My bad. Anyway, we've been recording for like a minute.
what?
Yeah.
Are you fucking serious? Oh God damn it. Hold
You
on. I
said
had a
you
bit.
were you said you were ready, and then I was like, all right.
I'm like eating on mic.
And then during that
Oh God.
millennial pause that we all take before we start recording, and like I hit you with that start us off, Carter. You're just like, so one episode left, and I'm just
Wait,
like,
you didn't say start us off. I didn't hear
no,
it.
I didn't get to because I was taking that
Oh
break as
God.
I hit the button, and then as I was taking that beat, before I said start us off, you're just like, so one episode left, and I'm like, it was like right after I hit the start button, and I was just like, all
Oh
right,
Jesus.
let's just let this fly. I'm gonna roll with this. Why not?
Oh God. I was outside for an hour. I'm like gasping for air. Jeez. Hold on. Hold on. And welcome to the Quackcast, your favorite podcast for all you alpha ducks out there, reminding you that duck is truly the best meat for the holidays, not that beta soy cuck turkey. Uh, you know what? This bit fucking sucks. I'm just gonna throw that out. Welcome to Don't Sleep on Football. Carter here.
And I'm a documented liar on that, knowing how many episodes of My Hero Academia are
Yeah,
left.
you were a little off there, Chief.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, 50. Google's it's like My Hero
I'm like, that's
Academia has
actually
about
doable.
170 to 172 episodes, and I'm like, oh no.
I was going to say, I'm like, all right, 9 years, they only have like 60 episodes. That's not too good a track record.
Nope, that's a
Although,
lot.
well, we've watched more than that. Oh, God. Well, anyway, so we're here to talk about not My Hero Academia. That'll be on
When?
multiple channels at some point, probably. But for now, we're here to talk about Thanksgiving weekend, the biggest football weekend of the year, not including the Super Bowl. Uh, and I was
And
about
like
to say the Pro Bowl, and I'm
Christmas.
like, be realistic. And Christmas, and every freaking holiday now because the NFL is a monolith. But yes, we had a pretty good lineup of Thanksgiving games, and
I
a
Yeah, no, I can agree to that. I liked it. It was
yes, and a more or less interesting. Well, here's what I would say about the actual Sunday lineup. Every matchup was more or less what you'd expect, except one really, really big one.
yeah.
Shall we dive in?
Yeah, I guess so. Let's before we get into highlights, let's just recap the because there's a lot of specialty games like or special time slot games.
Yes.
Fun.
Shall we go through the Thursday and Friday games?
Yeah. So first off, fun fact: this year was the first year that they actually followed like Sunday football hour like timing.
Really?
Yeah. So like the game was 1 4 and 8 something as opposed to like 12:30 3 something and something later. Um,
I'd never really thought about that, but you're right. They usually do
yeah,
weird staggered times
the
for these
the
games.
the only reason I like knew that was because it's like uh, when I was leaving playing football with the boys and stuff. It
Mm.
was I was like, yeah. Usually people are like, all right, game time's in like a hot second, but like we're all
Oh, yeah,
older
yeah.
now, and people had to go to like girlfriends' houses and wives' houses and stuff like that.
Pshaw.
So it's just like, all right, that's like, I guess that's why. And then I'm like home, I showered, and I'm like, like, by the time I'm like done showering and stuff, it's just like, I'm like, what happened to the football game to my dad? And he's just like, oh yeah, no, they're doing like a normal time slot this year. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And he's just like, yeah, no, it's like, as opposed to like starting like half hours earlier and stuff. And I'm like, huh.
Hmm.
So shout out
Yeah,
to
I don't.
dad.
Yeah, I don't understand why they would do. Well, I guess it's weirder that they had the different staggered time slots. I guess
That's
it's
my
like,
opinion. Like I never thought about it, but I'm like, it is weird that they picked like a half hour earlier for each time slot.
yeah, it's. I don't. I'm genuinely just rattling my brain. There has to be a reason for this, right? Like, was there some idea of like, well, we have to stagger them around when people eat, but I feel like people eat like there's no consistent time anyone
No.
eats anymore. Like, my family was done eating by like 2 just because it's like, well, beat the traffic, whatnot, Black Friday sales and whatnot. Um, it's Jesus. That was actually a discussion me and Sydney were having. Like, we are truly we were the exact pocket, the exact generation that experienced the entirety of the Black Friday phenomenon.
It
It's so
is
funny they call it
true.
the Black Friday game now because it's like that reference is probably alien to people younger than us.
I think oh man, I feel like I don't know what it would be a special on, whether it be Disney Desk or here, but just us sitting down and talking about the change in Black Friday would actually be like take up an hour of people's lives.
Right?
But
We
we did it is like we are like the way I look at it is um COVID killed so much of the retail industry. It's not even funny. Like
Well, I feel like it even started before then. I remember,
so
like, I used to listen to podcasts who were super into, like, Black Friday, like, the Schadenfreude of it, and they're like, it
yeah.
just doesn't have that kick anymore.
So
Just
like
doesn't hit anymore.
before like 2019, 2018 and stuff, like I would say like late 2010s, Black Friday was less about the actual experience of it, I guess is the word I'm going to
Hmm.
use, and more of people going out just for funsies, people and like but it was really a behind the scenes of well, let's see who can open up the earliest. And people going like, oh yeah, our doors are open 8 p.m. on Thanksgiving. Our doors are open at 6 on Thanksgiving. And trying to outcompete, like, the big brands are trying to outcompete each other and stuff for,
Hmm.
like, the most, like, crazy thing. Like, it's like, all right, yeah, we're going to be open for 68 hours, like, straight starting Thanksgiving at 4 p.m. Which is a crazy concept when you look at back at it now and stuff of how it was open and like but it's also when 24-hour McDonald's, 24-hour Walmarts and all that stuff were super prevalent. So like the concept of like Black Friday shopping is like we can get to these stores super early and stuff. It's just like, all
Hmm.
right, I could shop at Walmart at 3 a.m. in July if I want to.
Yeah,
But
that's true. We did reach like pre-internet shopping, pre-delivery app, we had reached like peak capitalism with Black Friday.
yeah,
Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't tried to bring back like the Black Friday stampedes as like the libs don't want you to have this. The socialists, they hate our tradition of waiting in line at 8 p.m. on a holiday to
yeah.
get a TV.
Well, the
I mean, that's what I would do if I was running Walmart or something. It's slightly better than the Sydney Sweeney wearing jeans idea.
yeah, the COVID pivot was because limiting amount of time outside, limiting like amount of people that could be in
Hmm.
stores and stuff was all these Black Friday, like Thursday into Saturday deals are going to be stretched from the Sunday before Thanksgiving to like the Sunday after. Where like I worked retail for COVID and it's just like we had
Oh God,
no
I forgot about that.
we had no specials. Like we had specials for the entire week, but we had nothing like really significantly special on Black Friday itself because that was the marketing of it's
Hmm.
like Black Friday deals. Fuck that. Thanksgiving week, Black Friday week deals all day, like from Sunday to Sunday, and it's just like yeah, Friday's part of that list too.
I
Um,
do think it becomes a workers' rights thing too. Of like, why are we forcing people like you have to be here at 11 p.m. or you're gonna lose your job, sort of thing. On when what's supposed to be a national holiday.
yeah, I got opinions on that. Probably should say for a
Uh,
different thing.
Yeah, when we inevitably do our radical politics podcast. My politics are. You guys always seem to think my politics are like confusing or radical, and I feel like they're pretty straightforward. But that's just me. Anyway, the actual football games, what we're nominally here for.
Yes,
Uh, First game off the bat at 1 p.m. was the Green Bay Packers defeating the Detroit Lions 31 to 24.
Lions looked
Truly,
sad in that game, in my opinion.
right? It is weird because you know, it's so funny that this era of Lions football is defined by being very good but still not winning consistently on Thanksgiving because you keep waiting for the you keep like you kept waiting for the turn. You kept waiting for the like all right, they're going to rally, they're going to win this game because like that's what we're expecting, right? That's,
Yeah,
they're the better team, right? They've been the better team. And yet we get to the fourth quarter and like we get to the fourth quarter, turnover on downs, field goal, and then the Green Bay Packers were able to run out the clock. The Packers are interesting because they're 8-3-1, but like I feel like they haven't gotten nearly. I don't know in terms of like market correction in terms of how much hype they have. Like we started off the year and they had those first two games where the defense was on fire and they looked competent and everyone was it's like the Super Bowl favorite, everyone bet them like lock in, like obviously the Packers are the team to beat. And then it's the combination of like they have three of the biggest ick games that anyone had this season in
hmm
terms of they lost to Cleveland 13 to 10. They
yeah.
tied with the Cowboys in a
Cowboys.
game they expected that was the Micah Parsons revenge game that wasn't. And then they lost to the Carolina Panthers in a truly
I
befuddling game.
I hate how much I personally hyped it up as the Micah Parsons revenge game. I'm gonna be honest.
Everyone
I mean,
did.
everyone did, but like, I won't deny, I definitely was just like, that's the Micah Parsons revenge game.
I
Fuck
mean,
yeah,
I
dude.
benched
And then
George.
it was just
Yeah,
like, oh god,
I
Stimpy, you
benched George
idiot.
Pickens because I was like, Parsons is going to get 4 sacks. They're not going to be able to move the ball. And then it ends up turning it into a Wild West saloon shootout. Um, but quietly, again, they've been one of the more consistent teams. And I do think like this game, if there's going to be a game that's defined as like this is the game that rallied them to get to the NFC title game, I think it's going to be this one because this was like, for lack of a better word, it's like peak what you want to see from Jordan Love in terms of like absolute. He's more Brett Favre than Aaron Rodgers, and this game was emblematic of that. Of just like slinging the ball down the yard, just truly everyone eats but complimentary. Multiple like 30 to 50 yard strikes. Um, just like a really fun day for the Packers offense, and a weird, not the worst game from the Lions, but like it just felt like the Packers completely had control of this game from the beginning.
Yeah, it's it was definitely a very Packers heavy game. Um, but like I said, I feel like the Lions just looked a little sad, and it was like they didn't have terrible stats. Nothing they did was like Oh God, it just like they actually both had 60 plays.
Huh.
Both sides, and the Lions had more
That's an interesting
time of
stat.
possession. But it's just
Well, I do think it's interesting that the Lions had multiple turnover on downs. I
yeah,
think if there's one criticism you can make of the Lions this year is particularly on that front, I feel like they've almost become a parody of themselves in terms of like they're doing it just to do it because that's what they're known for.
yeah,
Where it's like, why you're on the Green Bay 47, you're at midfield, and you've actually kind of been struggling to stop the Packers. Why are you going for it here? That's not like that's like, oh, well, we're famous for doing this. When in reality, it's like, actually, the nerds are wrong here. You really should just punt this ball. You basically gave them a touchdown.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Like
it's
it wasn't even a
it's
bad game either. Like
right. Again,
I
they only lost by 7.
yeah, they lost by like a
Oh
score.
God, I did the meme.
I saw, but
Ugh.
they lost by a score. It just like Packers looked great. I don't know why like the Lions just felt sad to me. Like
Right, that's a funny thing. Right, we're talking about like vibes. This is a big vibes game in terms of like on paper, the Lions were right in this game. Everything was fine. It's not the end of the world that you lost to a talented rival, but it did just feel like it's like, oh, they're 7-5 now. Their odds to make the playoffs are diminished, like actually very diminished right now because Chicago is up and coming.
yeah,
Like it does just feel like, oh, is this going to be remembered as one of the games that was like the beginning of the end for this era of Lions football?
I I mean I don't think it is. I think there's still
I like
plenty
to
left
think
in the
not either.
tank, but it's just
Hmm.
one of those like weird moments of just like it felt like you didn't have anything going. Excuse
Right.
me, going for you. Also, why was anyone surprised that Eminem performed at halftime? He's a huge Lions fan. They're in Detroit. It's just like,
A disproportional percentage of his brand is being from Detroit.
yeah. And he's like
Um,
a crazy big Lions fan. It's like, yeah, everyone's like, oh my god, he actually showed up and like performed. It's just like, no shit.
yeah, if you pay someone enough, they'll show up to most things.
Yeah, I'm pretty like I know
I'm pretty
this
sure the
is
only reason he didn't show up last year is because the what's his name? Not Swoozy. That's the animated guy. Sweezy, the tipsy guy.
I don't know.
Shabuzi. That's it. I kept saying Swoozy, and I'm like, no, that's the Disney YouTube animator. Yeah, he was there last year, and that's just because he had like a big hit.
Yeah,
It usually it's Eminem unless someone more like topical
I mean,
happens to be from the area.
yeah, topical. Yeah, because it was like him in the
Um,
white stripes, which is pretty cool.
yeah. Incidentally, this was more of a coming out game for Micah Parsons on the Packers than the Cowboys won. He did have 2.5 sacks, and it really was like it felt like every other drive he had like the play that redefined, like changed the momentum of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it really is funny. Like the Packers, it really did feel like the Packers beat the Lions at their own game in terms of like balancing the run and the pass, like big splash plays, and really the difference in the game 3 and 3, 3 for 3 on fourth down versus 0-2. Like, you know what it is? It feels like a chain snatching game. Like, so much of the hype around the Lions this year is like, oh, they have their first home playoff game and their Thanksgiving games finally matter. And yet, for some reason, they can never win at Thanksgiving. And the Packers roll up and drop 31 on them. It does just kind of feel like hey, remember everyone, the Packers are here now. Like, remember this team we were all excited for a year or two ago? Like, they're fully formed.
Yeah,
Shall we move on to the 4 o'clock game?
yeah,
Actually one of the more consequential games of the year, probably.
yeah. Kansas City loses to Dallas. Both teams at 6 wins now, but Kansas City has 6 losses. Dallas has 5, and they're one tie.
Another game where it's like both teams were in it, but it feels so much more infinitely sad for the one
Kansas
team.
City, yeah, like it was. it was another very competitive game. For
Mhm.
like the vast majority of it, going back and forth pretty frequently.
Yes.
But
Well, I'm going to be honest. The game started with a Dak Prescott interception, and the Chiefs scored on 2 plays. And I'm like, fuck me. This is going to be like, this is just not going to be fun. This is going to be a beatdown.
yeah,
And then, yeah, it just ends up being like, it really comes down to the margins of like the Chiefs end up having like one or two more 3-and-outs compared to the Cowboys, and the game was over. Um, well, allow me to explain my emotions for this game. For the Chiefs, it's sad, especially because this actually was a pretty decent Mahomes game. Like, he had 4 touchdowns. He was pushing the ball downfield. Like, they were scored. Again, 9 times out of 10, 28 points should get you a win in the NFL.
yes,
And unfortunately, it really does feel like a part of the alchemy of this era of Chiefs football, the post Tyreek Hill, is like, all right, you have a top 5 quarterback, but you also have like a low key top 5 defense with like 2 or 3 big difference makers. And now that those difference makers have lost a step, the whole alchemy's off. It's like now you're like, man, I really wish we had that like little extra spark in the receiving room, or like, you know, a slightly better running game.
hmm
The Cowboys, this game kind of makes me mad. And like, I know you don't want to give the Cowboys any credit, or like you don't want to see them in the playoffs, but like even with this win, their road to the playoffs is very, very hard. They kind of have
yes,
still kind of do need to win out because, again, but someone between the Packers and the Bears isn't going to win their division. So that's a 9-win team already. And someone between, not the NFC South, the West,
the
someone between the
West.
Seahawks and the Rams is going to get the wild card. And they both already have 9 wins. So, like,
Yeah, no, they're
already 2 of the 3 wild card spots, you're down 3 wins.
yeah, they're pretty much. They have what, 5 games? Yeah, 5 games left.
Hmm.
They have uh the Lions next. Then they have Vikings, which is like a 50-50 team in my opinion, because it's like
Right. They
sometimes
can
it's
be
like,
kind of
oh shit, and then other times, looking at this week, it's just like, oh, why did you show up? Um, Chargers,
that's the
Commander,
magic of 9.
Chargers, Commanders, Giants. So it's like, all right, Chargers are a decently tough team. They're
Hmm.
not like, I would say their record is reflects better than they actually are for the Chargers, but it's not like they're a
Oh yeah.
terrible team. I think they've gotten a little bit more lucky than other teams out there, and especially with like their schedule, because it's like, yeah, dude, you already played the Giants. Actually, you lost about the Giants and Commanders. Um, but this,
Right. But that's
but
what I mean.
like
That's
Dolphins,
why I'm mad.
Titans.
Like they screwed around. Like the Cowboys. I genuinely think if they were in the playoffs, they would be one of the more exciting teams because they have. This is the closest we've had to a Dak Prescott team that I actually kind of believe in. Because you have 2 elite wide receivers.
Yes.
Again, I'm all on the Pickens train. You finally figured out the running back room. Again, it's so funny this year we were talking about like, do they just drag Ezekiel Elliott's sorry ass back and
It
like run the
feels
ball 3 yards of play?
so weird for it to be Javante Williams. Like,
And he's like, well, he
no,
wasn't good in this game, but he's been really good
he's
this whole year.
he's been having a great season. I won't deny that at all. But it's just one of
Right.
those like, it's just it feels like if you told last year us, hey, you know who's gonna be carrying
He
the
couldn't move.
Cowboys?
It looked like he couldn't
Javante
move last
Williams,
year.
and we're gonna be like, shut up.
He looked done. Like he genuinely looked like I'm like it was full on like Todd Gurley where I'm like you might just like have to retire out of lack of interest, my guy. And you actually did also solve the problem of like the run. As stupid as the whole Micah Parsons thing is, getting Quinion Williams actually did kind of solve your running defense. Like
Yeah,
you're decent at stopping the run now.
it
But
helps.
it's like, yeah, but if you didn't screw around and wait till the 11th hour to pay everyone, you could have also kept George Pickens or not George Pickens, Micah Parsons on top of everything else. If you didn't screw around and lose winnable games to start the year, you wouldn't be 6-5-1. Like
Yeah,
it's just
you.
like this should be the defining moment to get to the playoffs, and instead it's like, oh well, this keeps our playoff hopes alive.
It's like we were talking about last week, where it's just like you like the like with the like and the last couple of weeks actually, but the Giants, where it's just like if they started Dart for the beginning part of the season and Scadaboo with how good they've proven to be, they could have
Hmm.
probably eked out a couple more wins. Where I'm not saying they're division winning yet, but it's like yeah, they couldn't. They could have been not 2 wins deep this late in the season.
Hmm. Exactly. It is
It,
frustrating. There's nothing more frustrating than potential not being realized, and it's like, God, what a waste.
it feels it feels a little bad. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I like as much as it's like, oh yeah, the Cowboys could have been doing this the whole time. There's also the
Hmm.
inverse of man, the Chiefs are just not having a season. I think it's 6 losses. I think this ties Mahomes' worst season yet, and
God, that's a hell of a thing.
it's still week 14. There's still 4 more games.
Yeah, frankly, it's interesting because again, it's like I should be more concerned that the Chiefs are 6-6, but until we are in the wild card weekend and I look at the bracket and I don't see that arrowhead, I just don't like
It
they're the they're the best 6-6 team I've seen in quite a long time where I'm like, you're better than this. I do believe that.
yeah, I think it's really gonna come down to because kind of the inverse. You have the Patriots and Bills who are clearly ahead of the
It'd be
Chiefs.
really hard for them to miss the playoffs at this point.
Yeah, for both of them, you have they're still third in their division behind a very strong Broncos, very strong Chargers, and then there's this like the AFC North is going. It looks like it's just going to be the division winner this season.
God, I hope so.
They are super close. They're all super close, and it's kind of fun, but not in a cute way at this point. If I'm being honest, like I love a good competitive division,
Hmm.
but the Ravens are somehow like a terrible team despite having one of the best rosters. The Bengals went on such a cold streak where they were going with Browning before like Flacco, and
Hmm.
even with Flacco their defense couldn't hold up, so it's just like all right, let's and now Burrow's back.
Right.
And then
Um,
a very fun AFC South with the Colts in
right.
the lead and Jacksonville and Tex or Houston are like chomping at the bit for that last slot. That honestly, like, if the Charger, as of right now standings, Chargers or Bills slip up,
Hmm.
like, not only can they take like the final spot, but they might be able to take more than one, depending on honestly the future of the Colts. I think
Right.
the scariness of the Texans defense and this weird Trevor Lawrence Trevoring more in his favor kind of thing going is
Right.
a little bit in their favor, but I
Right. The
think that's
Jekyll and
a
Hyde Jaguars, as they'll be, as they kind of are personified as.
yeah, I think this is like a lockdown for one slot almost at this point for that
Right.
division. Like in the wild card picture, it's just a matter of what ranking and if they could somehow get a second one compared to Buffalo and the Chargers at this point. And
Right.
the Chiefs are, I think we talked about, was it last week or like 2 weeks ago, where it's just like the Chiefs are on the losing end of a lot of those tiebreakers.
Right. Yeah, that's their biggest disadvantage. I think their main advantage is it does feel like at least one of the wild card spots is opening because teams are starting to slip. Again, the bloom is a little off the rose on the Colts right now. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like everything that could go wrong for them is going wrong, and you have the tiebreaker on them. And
I
I want to believe again. I'm a Chargers believer, but like I just don't believe with how the roster is currently constructed they can pull this off.
yeah, because they do have so after this Cowboys game, they have the Texans. Yeah, the Chiefs. I got confused because I was like, didn't they play on the? Don't they play on Thursday? No, it's just I mixed up the Cowboys for them. But they
Hmm.
play strong defense Texans, a interesting Chargers, the Titans, a very strong Broncos on Christmas, and then the Raiders.
Mm,
Being generous, like I can say, well, yeah, being generous, I could say that's easily a at least 2 wins with the over the Titans and Raiders.
right.
I
Which gets into 8.
that gets
I
them
think
to
you got to get at
8.
least 10.
I think I think 10 might be the threshold, especially if they get a win over the Chargers. I think
Mm,
I think a win over the Chargers, and then maybe a lucky win if Broncos start resting people early, or they're like, Bo Nix, Harvey, go celebrate Christmas with your families. We'll take care of things here.
right. Um, yeah, I don't know. I do think though the Broncos would be motivated to play that game just to keep them out of the playoffs.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just a tough.
I think that is the death sentence game for if if the Broncos actually bring out an effort. Um, however, once again, we'll talk about this in a little bit. It is the Broncos are at a solo time slot, and that is when they shit the bed and put on the trashiest games. Um,
Truly, it is the most fascinating part of this Broncos season where I'm like, objectively, they're good. The defense is good enough. Like, the defense is very good. But anytime you're forced to just watch them by themselves, you're like, is Bo Nix like the worst quarterback in the NFL? Like, it really is. He makes like two
he
plays a
gets
game that like save the day. But then the other 60, like 59 minutes, you're like, this guy sucks.
it's like he has TV time stage fright, where he knows he's going to be on the most televisions, and he just panics. But then it's just like, oh, we're at the 1 o'clock slot where people don't really care about us that much, like out of market. Hell yeah,
Right, he's so used to playing at 1 o'clock. Like, if you mess up his routine even a little bit, he just like craters.
yeah.
But
But
yeah, the fact that we're even talking about this just feels so bleak for a team that has been in the AFC title game for 5 straight years and has been to 4 Super Bowls. What? Wait, no, 5 Super Bowls.
yeah,
Wait a minute,
I
I'm
think
getting
it's
my
5 Super Bowls, 6 AFC titles.
right because the only time they didn't make it was when they lost to the Bengals. Good lord, what a
That
changing of the
happened.
guard. Speaking of which, the Bengals acts truly well, and our one big highlight for this week is Burrow is back, and are the Bengals back from the dead? Joe Burrow comes back from his toe injury, ends up throwing 2 touchdowns, and the Bengals kind of end up putting the hurt on the Ravens, 32-14. If you told me one of these games would be a beatdown, I
I
probably
would
wouldn't have
have not
predicted this
guessed
one.
this one, especially with how the Bengals defense has been. But
Hmm.
they were firing on all cylinders.
Right. A 4 turnover day for the Ravens. Actually, genuinely might be might be the worst game Lamar Jackson's played. Like, I know he's had his
He
ups and
looked
downs in the playoffs, but
trash.
2 fumbles, 1 interception, 3 sacks. It really underlines again, like, he's definitely very clearly hurt. There was the classic Ravens gambit of Isaiah Likely reaching into the end zone only to get the ball batted out at the 11th hour and losing the ball. Um, and what's crazy is even without the turnovers, I just feel like they couldn't get anything going. Like it
Yeah,
just felt like they were going to lose the game. And I don't know, there are a lot of, and talking about vibes, the Ravens vibes have gone from Super Bowl favorites in the preseason, looked pretty good for most of September, and now they're just kind of in a ditch.
yeah. Like it is the most have said it multiple times. They are the best worst team this season,
Hmm.
where it's just like on paper, Lamar, Derrick Henry, Flowers, likely even with like Andrews and stuff, it's just like, man, this offense should be absolutely kicking ass every single week. And their defense is no joke either. But they were on that incredibly cold streak to start the season.
Hmm.
Um, what was it, like 1-6 or something like that? It
Hmm.
was. Let's see.
Right. They had a
Their
slow
second,
start
yeah,
because
they
of
were one in
injuries.
five. Their second win was in week 7 against the Bears. But and then Lamar was like out, so it was just like, all right, we're gonna drop some more, but we're gonna still like do some winning.
You know what it is? It really is like of it's frustrating because of the team of like the big quarterback teams. Like we're looking at a scenario where Burrow, Lamar, Mahomes miss the playoffs, and I don't necessarily have faith that the Bills are going to win a playoff game. And it's like at least those other three, it's really easy to explain the situation.
Yes.
You just go, you're like, oh well, the defensive talent has kind of dried up for the Chiefs, and like the coaching isn't able to compensate anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and like they're losing on the margins. The Bengals, they put all their chips in the offensive basket. The defensive talent has not developed, and then Joe Burrow got hurt. The Bills put all their chips in the defense. Half the defense is hurt, and the defenses have caught up to the lack of receiving talent. Like
Yeah.
those are all explainable. Whereas the Ravens, I'm like, you have like you have all this talent on defense, all this talent on offense. You have institutional competency, like like and yet you just if if you were to tell me one sort of surprise coach gets fired, I really do think it would be Harbaugh,
Harbaugh.
just on the
Yeah.
grounds of like there are only so many years you can like kind of play down to your competition and just have these games that just feel like a lack of discipline and a lack of focus in big moments. Because again, I don't know how else you
It,
like I don't know how else you describe like a 4 turnover game in one of the most in prime time against an opponent who on paper is completely inferior,
yeah.
other than like a lack
Especially
of
in the
discipline.
defensive part. I think here's
Yeah.
also the question. I think it. I think it comes back to like the Mike Tomlin discussion of it's like this guy can coach really good teams. We know that for a fact.
Hmm.
Um, they've won some crazy games, but is this a one season fluke? Even though like they haven't been able to win it all in a hot minute, or
Right.
is this
They
just
and the
other
Bills are
teams like
the
catching
two
up?
the yeah, they're the two win the Bills and the Ravens are the two teams with the most wins over a 5-year period not to win a Super Bowl. And again, at least with the Bills, it's like, well, considering the overall lack of like high-end talent on the team, that's
Yeah,
at least believable. Whereas the Ravens, I'm like, you have all pros on the defensive line. You have all pros in the linebacking space. You have maybe the best safety in the NFL. You've had like like a constant flux of veteran, like sort of above average guys. You have one of the best quarterbacks and one of the best running backs going for 2,000 yards and an okay receiving core. Like at some point, the only explanation just becomes like the sort of like day to day running of the institution has gotten like stale. Like they're not listening to the coach anymore, and that
yeah.
results in these moments of like lapses. I will say though, and not to just be a complete downer about this game, I would love to give my roses to coming cold off the bench, like after missing so much time. The Ravens' offense doesn't look like it missed a step with Burrow, and like the fact that even at 4-8 they still have a chance to win the division.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is why you held out hope. This is why you talk yourself into getting Joe Flacco to hold down the fort. And it's only my
It's
like I should be more frustrated like with the Cowboys that it's like, oh, you had a real chance here. But
mhm.
given the sort of stuff you've had to overcome, I'm feeling more optimistic about them.
I think I think the real game between the two of them isn't going to be this Thanksgiving game. It is going to be the Week 15 game. They play at 1 o'clock, which means absolutely nothing like timeline wise. But
Hmm.
I think it adds. We're getting to the part of the season where tones are being set for like ending of ending of the season placements, things like that. And I
Mm.
think that is going to be another that is a must win for the Bengals. That is a must win for Baltimore, where I don't know who. Actually, I think I might know who it's more must win for. It's more must win for the Ravens over the Bengals, because that is just unfair. The other three games, like the three games after it, the Ravens
Mhm.
have Patriots, Packers, Steelers, which would seem like a oh, this is a gimme, but the Bengals have Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns.
God, that's a gift.
That is a
It is
gift
kind of
for the
crazy.
that is a gift for the Bengals, but that means the Ravens are going to have to try and outbeat them every single time. Especially because as of right now, they are losing the tiebreaker between them and the Bengals. And the Steelers have, I would say, probably the more interesting lineup. So they have the Dolphins, like when the Bengals play the Ravens, but then they have Lions, Browns, Ravens. So it's like, all right, that is a little bit in your favor, but not as much. And you're only one game up from the Ravens and a couple from the Bengals, but the Bengals have kind of a joke last few games. So you're still within earshot.
It is just so funny that we're like doing all these mental gymnastics to try and crowbar either the Bengals or the Ravens into the playoffs, and it's like the Steelers had probably the worst, well, second worst performance of this weekend, and they still might win their division. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like the organization has fully given up, and yet they still might make the playoffs because we have to like find wins for both the like we have to go full like election stealing and like find wins and
Yeah.
tiebreakers for both the Bengals and the Ravens.
Yeah, no,
um,
it's crazy. I think it's going to come down to just the most it's either going to be the most biggest piece of crap in the last like 2 weeks, or it's going to be the most intense fight. Like there's no like, oh yeah, this will be nice. It's going to be hardcore, or it's going to be dog shit.
Right. It is like you. Well, I mean, that's usually what the AFC is. It's usually a mud fight. It's just all these teams give us the ick now because I'm like, why aren't you better, Ravens? God damn it! Could you not have invested in a better backup sooner, Bengals? Like Steelers, I just simply don't like you. Um, but the other game of the sort of holiday lineup is woof. Uh, Another one. Here's the thing.
All
Here's what I will
right,
say about this game for the Eagles. They ended up losing 24-15. And I think the red flag for this game is, as you have
the
said the
young
last
guy.
couple weeks, yeah, well, yes. As you have talked about with the last two losses for the Eagles, there's at least reasonable explanations for what went wrong.
Yeah,
A lack of discipline, getting a lot of penalties, like a couple, stalling out on offense or getting predictable on offense. Like, you look at them and you say, like, well, the defense was still pretty good. Like, there's still things that are good enough, and you still had a chance to win. So, like, it's survivable. You can mentally sort of compartmentalize it and be okay with it. Even though this game was pretty close for most of it, like
they
there was
just
very few moments where I felt like the Eagles had any real chance of winning this game.
yeah no, they just looked bad. There was a very big blunderous call in my opinion for
Mm-hmm.
it was their final touchdown. They went for two and failed, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or no, it was the earlier one in the third quarter where they went for two. They like would go for two, and it's just like if you go for one, you're still within striking distance if you just step up your game a little bit. Um,
Right.
but like they did these like very weird go for two options when they weren't having the most luck out there, and it's just
I
like
was gonna say, if you can only get 15 points against a defense that doesn't have any of its linebackers, you shouldn't be going for two.
yeah, like go for the field goals, get like those like almost guaranteed single points.
Mm-hmm.
If you did it in the third quarter, you could have um, had the game tied at the end of the third. and then the fourth quarter is theoretically like a brand new game. But no, they just got outplayed.
Right, there really isn't that much like
There's nothing
sophisticated
crazy.
intellectualizing of it.
Like
I mean, to the credit of the
up,
Bears, I really do like that the Bears have completely pivoted to being this like run heavy team. They ran the ball 47 times and almost got 300 yards.
yeah,
Like again, I think they've realized like where the development again, to Ben Johnson's credit, he didn't just try to force this team to be the Lions 2.0. I think he like correctly identified like the strengths and weaknesses of this team, and
yeah,
it's like yeah, it is going to be a run first team with the pass serving as a pace changer or a splash play getter. And yeah, to the credit again, to their credit, like the one advantage the Eagles have had is no matter how like toxic the vibes have gotten, they've been really good at stopping the run. And once you
hmm
break that, it just feels like you completely discombobulate this team.
yeah. No, and their their defense did like the Eagles' defense did like the Lord's work. They were trying so much to just make things happen,
Hmm.
but it was the surprise like chump plays, and then there's like a very like distinct weak spot in like the Eagles have a very strong defensive line with like Jordan Davis, Jomo, oh my god, why am I just forgetting his name? Jalen Carter, there we go. And then it's like, all right, and then when you have like Nolan Smith and Phillips on the outsides, and it's just like, all right, cool, that's a very strong starting lineup. And then you got like
Hmm.
N'Kobe Dean, Zach Bond, like as your main linebackers, and it's just like, all right, solid. And then it's like Reed Blankenship as a major safety. You got two two of your fucking corners are like super solid with Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, where they are terrifying to play against, it seems. And then there's the last two slots of um, so it was filled up with a rookie, and I think his name's Andrew for some reason, but Makuba as like a second safety, and he had a very strong start, but his leg is done for the season. And then this like third spot that last year's season went to Slay was kind of just like that's been like this weird rotating door of like Healy Ringo and um like Adoree Jackson, where it's just like, all right, this is like two blatant weak spots for them. Um, to like it's a fact because like one of their backup safeties, Sidney Brown, incredibly quick dude, but
Hmm.
he's tiny for a safety, and he basically runs at you full force, and like it was very rare to see him end a play where both feet didn't clearly lift the ground. He just goes for the spear every single time and hopes that he has enough physics behind him to stop it. And like sometimes it works, but it's like, yeah, if he misses, that's just leaving a wide open hole.
Hmm.
Um, and Adoree Jackson and Ringo have this weird spot of just like we're we're good, but we're not great. And the second we're up against somebody like I would say they're probably C tier, maybe D tier cornerbacks. The second they're up against somebody
Yeah.
B tier or higher, they're beat or they do something stupid.
Right. Yeah, it's just
It,
I don't know.
it was just
I can't get a
they got outplayed in this one, and you got C.J. Gardner Johnson dropping hints of like like in the interview afterwards, it's like, did you know like when these plays are gonna happen? And he just kind of did like the I don't know shrug, and that's been my biggest complaint all season is they've just been predictable. Where it's just like, yeah, you're trying to be cheeky and be like, I don't know, but it's just like, yeah, no, you can read them like a book because A, you were on the team, and B, uh, they've been predictable since week 4.
again, it really does just underline, like, at times there can be sort of a institutional arrogance with competency of like, well, surely we will always have one of the best offensive lines in the history of the NFL, and everything will flow out from there naturally, and every we'll be able to do the exact same things we did last year and the year before that and the year before that. I do think it's underrated. Like, every good season the Eagles have had during this Jalen Hurts run, they basically radically reimagined the offense. Like, his first year as a starter with Nick Sirianni, the flower season as it's now known. Like, things were falling apart fast. Nick
Oh
Sirianni
yes.
looked like a one and done, and then they just go, "All right, we're not going to pass the ball. It's literally going to be like an old H-back style 40s, like, just run the ball every play with the quarterback." And that worked. That got you through the playoffs. Then you get AJ Brown, and you turn it, you go all in on passing. AJ Brown has like the best season of his career. Great. You go to the Super Bowl. You try to run that back the next year, everything falls apart. You're like, all right, we're gonna go back to run the ball, running back centric offense. It's all about the running back, baby. And then you just try to run that back this year, and you got nothing.
Yeah.
And
It also
I
doesn't
don't know.
help that it's a revolving door of uh, coordinators.
Right. Yeah, I just like, and that's the consequence of doing this sort of like GM run sort of
Jalen Hurts has never
thing,
had a back-to-back same offensive coordinator since like college.
right?
That's
I
a
don't know. I just
crazy stat.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's just run for the course now in the sport. But I really do think, like, I think you have to have a difficult discussion going into the season of like, I get that this sort of GM style of like organization running has worked, where the GM makes the big decisions of like, I pick the coordinators, the coach is more of like a vibes guy, like Doug Peterson and Nick Sirianni. It's like, well, Shane Steichen, it's kind of more his offense, it's kind of more Kellen Moore's offense, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, see, because I don't know, because like the problem is the Bills have kind of done that, but worse. But like, if you were to tell me the Bills could have like one bad season, get a good draft pick, and use that as the currency, the way the Eagles have to like restock the coffers, I'd probably be like, that's acceptable. Like, is it acceptable because you won the Super Bowl last year to run it back, not do as well, but like know that reinforcements will come the next year? Like, does that
I
make it acceptable in your mind? But at the same time, you're like, this team is too good for that. This isn't like the last crash out where you're like, well, the defense wasn't good enough, and like,
yeah.
how far can you really get with like, DeAndre Swift as your starting running back? Like, there were reasons why the collapse happened last time, whereas this time it's like it's literally the exact same team that won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think the like I keep saying the biggest problem is just predictableness, and we're trying to like run it back exactly like last year, like giving
Mm-hmm.
these crazy things to Saquon, having these cheeky throws to like um, Goddard and Smith and Brown, and I think nothing has drastically like everybody's prepared for it this year because we put on a fucking clinic last year on what we were gonna do this year. I
Yeah,
think
and
that's the
I
best
just
way to
gotta say,
describe it. Because it
I love
seems
AJ Brown, but oh, go ahead.
no, it's just everything's so predictable, and we're very clearly in this rut of predictableness. But it's week 13 out of 18.
Mm-hmm.
Are we like? Is it too late to change it, or should we just?
Probably,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it's like should we just finish out the season and end up against the Buccaneers and lose to the team that it's like almost impossible for us to beat for some odd reason.
Yeah, I will say, like in general, just the playing it out. It's like it really is. It really does underline the different parts of this team. It's like AJ Brown, the whole like sort of like sad philosopher thing is a lot more fun when you're winning. Saquon, the diet Jordan, like, I'm just a nice guy. stuff is a lot more fun when you're winning. And Jalen Hurts, your nonchalantness about literally everything is a lot more fun when you're winning. The specific vibes on this team, it really is complete. And even Sirianni and his like sort of
Refusal to
Mediterranean
shave his
blood
head.
running hot,
Yeah,
like all
that's what
literally
I want him
everything
to do
about
that
it,
again.
and by extension, the city of Philadelphia. I guess it's like your whole shtick only works if things are going well. Otherwise, it becomes charmless and grating. Um, shall we move on to our don't sleep on games?
Yeah, it's been about an hour.
Oh God. Well, that was going to be 90% of this
Yeah.
conversation. I like to think. Um, but yes, your pick is one of the one like real shocker score of the day. Carolina at Los Angeles.
Which is your pick? I picked Buffalo versus Pittsburgh.
What? No, I definitely picked Buffalo
I
Pittsburgh.
will absolutely look at the fucking editing history myself.
All right, do it, punk. I will read off what happened in this game. The Carolina Panthers stunned the Los Angeles Rams 31 to 28. A friendly reminder that whenever we crown someone as the Super Bowl favorite, they will inevitably lose in a weird, bewildering fashion. It is kind of an interesting game on two fronts. One, again, I think to give the Panthers their roses, this was a another game where I just feel like they were incredibly well coached and incredibly well disciplined. I think they realized like their best chance to win this game was especially when like the turnovers started for the LA Rams, like clock control. Hold if you're not going to score a touchdown, the drive has to be at least 4 to 6 minutes. Like for example, like even like they get a field goal drive that's 7 minutes long. It's like that's a victory. Like yes, I know you're still only up by 3, but it's that you kept the other team's offense off the field that long. I think honestly the most consequential drive in this game is the start of the fourth quarter. It's still a game. The Rams actually take the lead later,
Oh, I'm looking at
but
the
you punt on a 12 play 8-minute drive and it's like that is your
son of
best
a bitch.
chance
I
to win
did
this.
pick Carolina versus
Yeah,
LA. That's
fuck
on me.
off.
I thought I picked.
Yeah, my memory's not that bad. But like
I
yeah,
could have
in terms of
sworn.
like realizing the strengths and weaknesses of this team, knowing like the only way we're going to win this is if
Ah,
we get the ball last or like the number of drives is as reduced as humanly possible. um, Bryce Young continuing to have this fascinating season where like every other game he is looks elite. They kept him to, he only ended up having 20 throws this game, but he made them count. He got 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. Um, the final game winning play was an absolutely beautiful, and like in terms of talking about like compared to the Eagles, where people are like fighting over carries, fighting over yards, like Tedero McMillan only got 2 targets in this game. He caught one, but it happened to be this beautiful mesh concept where he was able to get open and just outrun everyone to the end zone to take the lead on a 43-yard play. And it's like that's what I mean in terms of like coaching and discipline and like vibes of like not only is it knowing how to manage the game to give your team the best chance to win, but also keeping your players locked in because like for the guy who's been the lead receiver for this team and has had his ups and downs due to the passing offense, it'd be so easy for him to check out. But no, you scheme them up one perfect play and they end up pulling it off. Meanwhile, for the Rams, this is
I
a weird loss, but I don't think it's a devastating loss because I'm
no.
like,
This isn't
okay,
like an embarrassing loss or anything like that. I think this is like the complete inverse to anyone who's played the Eagles in the last couple of weeks.
mm-hmm,
Of like the Panthers have become so unpredictable with like quality and everything
mm-hmm,
that it's like, all right, we got them, and it's just like, oh no, we actually don't. They're doing all this like nonsense, and honestly, Carolina's had such a sneaky good defense for like in like the cornerback position and backfield that it's
right.
just like you kind of you forget about them because it isn't like the huge name safeties, it isn't like the huge name corners. It's just like, yeah, oh, interception.
Mm-hmm. Right. If you can't be a great defense, be a defense who can create mayhem and get opportunistic turnovers. That has
Hmm.
literally been the driving force of the Bills defense for like 2 years now, where it's like you don't have to be the best. You just have to
You have
make
to
the
cause
best
panic.
3 plays in the year. Yeah. If you can make the 2 best plays of the game, it doesn't matter if you were good for the other 60 plays. Um, And yeah, it is how I feel because again, they were in this game. They had a chance to take the lead or tie the game with a field goal in the final minutes and ended up getting a sack forced fumble. And I really am like, Matthew Stafford broke the record for most touchdowns without an interception. Am I to believe he's going to throw 2 interceptions and lose a fumble every other game going forward? No, so they're probably fine. It is more one of those like any given Sunday and like good culture building games for the Panthers, who again, I'm just like, regardless of where Bryce Young ends up at the end of this year, maybe they decide they want to move on and try something different. Maybe they go for like a different veteran. Like, I'm reassured that at least this team, like the pieces are there to be
Yeah,
competitive in the NFC South going forward.
yeah, they're kind of. I don't want to say they're putting like the hurt, but like Hubbard and Rico are such a good um,
Mhm.
duo at running back. McMillan, ETN, even like Leggett and Coker. It's like, all right, these are like very solid rooms, kind of like the Colts minus Jonathan Taylor.
Mhm.
You could argue though that Rico Dowd has had some of those quality games though this season.
Mhm.
Of no one is like huge name threat. Like no one looks at their fantasy roster and goes, "Oh, they've got Michael Pittman on their team. I'm fucked." But it's just
Right.
like, "Oh, he's in flex, whatever," and it's just like, "Oh, he scored like 30 points this game somehow." Damn. Like from a fantasy perspective.
Right. Right.
And I feel like that's kind of the vibe the Panthers offense has at this moment, where
Mhm.
they can kind of be weird about their quarterback. And
Right.
they can fight strongly against some of these better teams. And I'm excited for their end of the season. See what happens.
Yeah. You know, the one secret weapon they have. There's a lot of discussion this week about like, oh, defensive has gotten too small and the offense has finally caught up. They found ways to counter the evolution in like again, we've talked about how like offenses weren't evolving and defenses were to counter offenses. But now defenses are very small, particularly in the defensive backfield. And you really do underrate. Between Jalen Coker, Tetaroa McMillan, and even Xavier Leggett, they have 3 wide receivers who average out to about 6'4", 220. They are a huge wide receiving core.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of a cheat code, particularly in this game against the kind of smaller Rams defensive backfield, where I think they really are able to just kind of bully people and like again, they have a good running game, and that's a huge advantage. But also being able to basically have the same kind of like we can dictate the physicalness of this football game just by the fact that all of our receivers are giants. I really do think that is an underrated sort of secret weapon they have. That I
Mm-hmm.
really do. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but I think, or if they just did it to compensate for the fact that their quarterback is like our height. But it is a very powerful secret weapon. Wait, I'm actually taller. Am I taller? I am taller than him. Anyway, the other game for today is the one I wanted to talk about. And I promise this isn't a homer thing. I'm not going to talk about the Bills that much. It is Bills Pittsburgh. The Bills kind of laid the smackdown on the Pittsburgh
Steelers.
Steelers. Yes, thank you. 20. What did I say?
No, you just were pausing a lot.
Oh, 26-7. Sorry, I was pulling it up. It was fascinating because literally, it is fascinating that going into half, it was 7-3 Pittsburgh, and yet you really were just like, there's no scenario where the Bills lose this game. They end up setting a record for most rushing yards any team has ever gotten in Heinz Field. They ran the ball 51 times for 249 yards. James Cook shattered his previous carries record, a guy who's kind of famous for not having like a high volume of touches. He's quietly leading the league in carries right now, which
Yeah.
is kind of the consequence of how you design this team, frankly. Um, but I want to talk more about the Steelers. We've talked about the fact that the Pittsburgh defense is the most money spent on any like side of the ball, and it is the worst combination of guys who are kind of aging past their prime, but also like the young guys not really being put scheme wise in the best place to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that. It's really bad that they gave up almost quarter season's worth of rushing yards to the Bills. It's really bad that this is probably the worst game Aaron Rodgers had played since coming to the Steelers. He has damage in one of his, he has an injury to his hand. He had to miss a chunk of this game because he got literally pancaked into the ground and might have broken his nose. He had a bloody nose and he was very bruised. It looked like a caricature of an old sort of vagabond, sort of living out of a boxcar. That's the only way I can describe it to the audience. But I think the sort of moment I wanted to bring up is, and a lot of Bills commentators were talking about this, is the Steelers have a tradition when they play home games where they played the Stick song Renegade. I believe that is the one that's like, the jig is up, the noose is out, dun, 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 dun. They do it every time, regardless of context. It always plays in the fourth quarter as like a sort of hype song. It was getting booed by the Pittsburgh fans because at this point they were basically out of the game. I believe that at that point they were already down 16-7, and the Bills score a touchdown right after to take the lead. And I really do think, for all the talk we've had about this like famous record for the Steelers, this like, oh, they never lose, they never have a losing season. That still might be true this year, but I really do think this is the breaking point for the fans where they're just fucking fed up with it.
Yeah. I think this is their, I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Yeah. Well, just keep going because imagine getting a worse coach. It feels like the argument of like Mike Tomlin will get a job at the snap of a finger. Like that meant, the NFL commentating community, the NFL intelligentsia might still argue that. The fans don't want to hear that shit no more. I really do think there's something so sobering about like playing your theme song despite losing and not really having any control on the game. Literally, your third quarter drives were leading up to Renegade were fumble, interception, and a 3-and-out.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills score a touchdown, and then the Bills eat up. They have an 8-play drive that started in the third quarter and a 9-play drive to kick a field goal. And you basically don't even have the ball for 90% of the fourth quarter. I do think that if the Mike Tomlin era is coming to an end, whether they try and trade him, because that's the thing you can do with coaches for some reason that everyone forgets, or if they fire him and decide it's time to change, clean house. Like, I do think this game will quietly be kind of the sort of the bookmark. Like in the documentary, it'll be when like the camera, they go slow motion and like some narrator was like, and deep down all of us kind of knew that was the moment that everything changed.
Yeah.
And yet they still might win the fucking division. Which would be the funniest I kind of want that because I think that would be the funniest outcome.
That is the funniest outcome, but it is also the worst outcome for change.
Right. The worst outcome for change, the worst outcome for like making sure Wildcard Weekend is fun, and generally a damning indictment of the entire AFC North.
Yeah. It would be such like a nail in the coffin for that division for this season of like, man, like we're talking about them like they were the AFC South like 2 years ago, where it's just like someone's gotta win. And meanwhile, the AFC South is like, hey, we're gonna fucking fight.
This is actually a fun division now.
Yeah, like
wait, we have good teams.
The Titans are here, but we're gonna fight it. We're gonna fight to the death.
Right, the narrative is fascinating. Like, hey, our narratives are fun and interesting. Yours are sad and grim. Shall we speed run our lowlights? Because I feel like we kind of covered most of the lowlights in Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we covered the real lowlights. Basically, other notes are it's purely because it was the Monday night game and it was like one of the last things to go out. But Jackson Dart absolutely got rocked by the defense from the New England Patriots. Literally, he just got sent out of bounds.
He was parallel. He was parallel to the earth. For all the shit we gave Brian Daboll for putting him in harm's way with all the design runs, we do have to accept at least a part of that is Jackson Dart's fault. And like whoever you bring in as coach really needs to work with him on like We
not
need you to
doing
play
something
10 years,
stupid.
not 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, the Denver Solos, yeah, the Patriots just walloped them. I don't know why people thought that would be an upset. Well, hey, here's the difference. Two of our lowlights are Dart got rocked and Denver at the solo slot strikes again.
Yep.
And here's the difference between why I actually kind of believe in the Patriots and am a little less believing in the Broncos. Because a classic
Broncos,
trap game,
yeah.
the Patriots put the hurt on them. A classic trap game for the Broncos, they win against a vastly inferior team in overtime.
Yeah.
And then we're obligated to bring up the Seahawks beat the Vikings 26-0. Minnesota joins the very illustrious Goose Egg Club.
Yep.
Maybe one of the worst performances by a quarter.
Was.
It's definitely.
It was so.
It's up there with the
bad.
Nathan Peterman game. It is up there with the Nathan Peterman game as debut performance, worst thing I've ever seen in my life. The iconic play, of course, is I believe it was literally like their first or second drive.
QB Max Brosmer.
Max Brosmer. I don't even. College Minnesota. He's 24. I've literally never heard of this person before. He is about to take a sack, gets twirled around like a ballerina, decides, I'm going to try and throw this.
Yep.
Throws it directly into the chest of Ernest Jones IV, and who proceeds to run about 70 yards for a touchdown. And that was the moment. Truly one of the iconic moments of this season.
Yeah, no, what a man.
Remember, it can always get worse.
Yeah, absolute beatdown for the Titans, or not the Titans. Sorry, force of habit, I guess. The Vikings, and they got nothing. The dude got sacked 4 times and threw 4 interceptions. Yeah, no, they're just in the Goose Egg Club.
Yeah, a rock bottom performance for the Vikings in a season that's felt like rock bottom 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah.
Anyway, notable notes. Dallas beat both Super Bowl teams in about a week.
Yeah.
That's actually real. That's a fun note. That's what we have this
Eagles
category for.
On Sunday, they beat the Chiefs on Thursday, and that's just like as much as I hate them, that's actually a really fun fact. That's it.
Right. Like a lot of when teams lose on Thursday games, they always make the excuse of like, well, we had a short time window to, get ready. And I'm like, well, what's the excuse for the team that won? It didn't bother them.
Literally like
genuinely impressive.
A 4-day span. Yeah. And it's just like, wow, that's
genuinely impressive feat.
That's a solid feat. Alrighty. Our newly eliminated teams joining
now we're getting in the chunks.
Arizona eliminated. New Orleans eliminated. Tennessee, surprised they weren't eliminated first, eliminated. And Vegas.
That's really funny, actually.
Another surprise. Not a surprise, eliminated. The Raiders lost to the Browns. That was last week. Too far. Where are the Raiders on this fucking schedule? The Raiders lost to the Chargers. That's what put them down. Arizona lost to the Bucks. Tennessee lost to the Jaguars pretty clearly. And the Falcons... the Falcons aren't eliminated yet. Who am I missing?
They still,
New Orleans Saints.
In spite of it all, have hope. Honestly, well,
Saints
here's my quick question for you.
Ow.
Oh, yeah. Again, the Dolphins are actually kind of surging. They're not going to make the playoffs, but at least the vibes are better. All right. Out of these teams, who are you most optimistic for and who are you least optimistic for?
Pre-draft, like where we are now, I would say I'm most optimistic. I'm going to go against my instincts on this one. And I'm going to say I'm the most optimistic about Arizona.
I can believe that.
I think Tennessee has the highest upside, depending how they draft. And my weird nature to always pick the Raiders for some fucking reason is also there.
Yeah, I would say I'm most optimistic for Tennessee because out of all these teams, they've answered the quarterback question. Like that just makes everything easier because again, the meta of the NFL now is you drop everything until you get the quarterback. And that's just like frustrating because you miss out on so much talent because you have to get the quarterback. Um, it is and I would say I'm least optimistic for the Raiders just because it really just feels like the consequences of trying to make this work over like three coaching regimes have finally
They're not
we
going to make
finally
fetch
run it.
happen.
Yeah, in terms of like to use gambling metaphor, you finally run out of like other people's money to borrow, and you're gonna have to start to face the consequences of this.
Yeah.
Um, Question of the week. This was my question. Who's your don't sleep on player for your respective team? Who's the player who's kind of surprised you or is kind of underspoken? Who you think is like one of the more important like pieces of your team right now?
Um, hmm. I would think he's becoming a little bit more like spoken outside of the like Eagle
Hmm.
circle this season. I'm gonna go with Reed Blankenship.
Nice. A name I hear a lot on sports radio, but not a lot on national radio.
Yeah, yeah. He's been stepping up in the world. He's having a baby. He got married and stuff, but he's like very quietly an incredibly strong safety,
Hmm.
and like he's not the best out there. He like I don't want to say he gets overshined by like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and like Zach Bond every game for like the defensive backfield, but he's like while those guys are making like the bigger plays, Reed's making like the real stopping tackles and stuff like that.
Hmm. I think that's a good pick, and weirdly, mine's in a similar space. I'm going with Cole Bishop, the second-year corner
I like that.
safety. Yes, which is funny because when it started the year, it looked like a honestly almost as bad as the Keon pick. The fact that those were back to back felt like this is a franchise destroying situation. We drafted him in I believe he was also a second round pick after Keon Coleman. Um, a he just was really struggling at the start of this year and really was only out there, it felt like, because you drafted him early and had to justify it. But fortunately, a part of it is we brought in a lot of old guard. We brought back Jordan Poyer, and it does feel like a lot of veteran presence has helped him kind of slow the game down and kind
Mm-hmm.
of trust his physical strengths better. Like the coming out, the idea was like, oh, he's just like a raw ball of physical clay that we can mold into something. And at some point this season, things kind of started to snap into place where you do feel that, where it's like he's not hesitating now. He's just reacting and acting and moving where he needs to. Kind of his signature play this year was the Saints kind of threatening to upset us. They do an end around pass to Spencer Rattler, and he reads it perfectly and makes a one-handed like leaping catch to stop the play. Perfect combination of like learning the rhythm of the game, learning how to read a defense, but also having the physical tools to capitalize on that. Which was the problem we had last year when Hyde and Poyer came back, and it was very clear they just didn't have the physical traits anymore. Um, Really, one of the more impressive stories of our season in terms of uh, like showing, it's so easy to think. Again, we think of everything like Madden, where it's like a guy's either good or he isn't. But seeing someone actually develop in real time and like turn their season around and by extension really help the defense out has been kind of a nice story.
Yeah. No, I think like if we were like in like doing video in a like room like sitting in desk across from each other and you
Hmm.
brought this up, you would have gotten a standing ovation from me on this one. I
Thank
think
you.
I think he is just one of those perfect players that summarizes a don't sleep on player.
Hmm. Where it's like he's going to make there's a good chance in the playoffs he will make one or two critical plays that will fundamentally change the course of that playoff game. Also, their rookie Maxwell Harrison, he's been fine, but I do want to mention they, for some reason, the Bills' social media has decided to do a recurring bit where he explains philosophic concepts. They did, that
Oh,
King of the Hill meme.
yeah.
The what is it? Not feng shui. It's
No, it's feng
wow,
it's feng shui.
Well, they
Or
do
they
that
do
one,
that one.
but then they did Wabi Sabi. He's like, the concept of Wabi Sabi is, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of funny. I don't like you, dude,
No, I was
but
watching
this
a
is
couple of them
funny.
earlier. They're good.
Yeah, the Bill social media team's fun. But anyway, on to next week.
Next week, oh my god, it is the time that we've been all waiting for in 2 weeks because next week it is our final week of buys. We got New England. Take a rest,
Thank God.
boys. Let other let the Bills catch up for a week. We have the Giants.
Give them a chance.
Take a rest, boys. You need it to keep your brain safe. And then actually two teams in a very similar spot in my opinion, the Carolina Panthers and San Francisco 49ers. Great spot for them to rest cuz they're about to go into that final stretch and it is going to be very fun and competitive for both teams where they are not or neither of them are their current divisional leader, but they are within like a game of each of them. They just have like an extra because they haven't had their bye. They have an extra loss, and or like they're down a win. So the percentage is a little bit skewed because of that. But I thought they both played each other coming out of the bye for some reason. I'm just full of shit apparently. But they both have these very plausible paths to their divisional spot. And the 49ers have a very plausible path to a wild card seed. I can't make that guarantee about the Panthers, though. Anyway, biggest games of next week. We have Sunday Night Football, Houston versus KC. Like, if you told me like 2 years ago, or not 2 years ago, but like this is like a playoff picture game, and I think it might have happened. It possibly, or like it should
Oh
have
yeah, they've
happened.
played in the playoffs before. This was
But
famously, I believe it was the year Kansas City first won, like Mahomes first won his Super Bowl. The Watson-led Texans, I believe, had like a 20-point lead on them, and then just completely imploded.
yeah,
And that was like the beginning of the end because then the Texans go like 3-13 the next year. Watson demands a trade. Accusations come out. I
and
I
then they
hate
pick
that
up
so
CJ
much of my
Stroud and
brain's
turn everything around.
yeah, it inexplicably works out completely perfectly for them. I hate that how much of my brain is dedicated to this knowledge. I could learn things. I could
Yeah,
be a philosopher. I
you
could
could.
I could be I could shape the minds of young scholars and help the world become a better place. But instead, I have
Yeah,
a very vivid memory of like several eras of football.
yeah. I think this is a very big game for both of these teams because it could be Mahomes' biggest loss, like biggest losing season of his career, and
Hmm.
it could theoretically knock them out of the picture. And then Houston is making this absolute charge for their they're on a 5 game win streak or a 4 game win streak.
Yes.
They're on a lot of win streaks. They're hot, and they're absolutely charging for the division and playoff picture. So it's like, all right, both of you guys, this is going to be a
Right.
huge week. And then we have
Right.
them.
Yeah.
No,
I do believe Houston is getting Stroud back, and I do think this game will basically decide whether or not I think they actually are going to be able to pull off this whole uh, what's the word? Comeback. I've been framing it.
yeah,
Anyway, yes. Then we got the good shit.
the Monsters Inc. game. For some reason, they decided to turn an 8 o'clock game, Eagles versus the Chargers, to being Monsters Inc. themed when they did Toy Story and The Simpsons previously. Um, I think this is the theme I'm least looking forward to. I like The Simpsons one the
What?
best.
I love Monsters
I
Inc.
know I love Monsters Inc., but I think this one is like I felt like there was a lot more with The Simpsons and stuff, But if
Mm.
they're just having Sully and Mike just run around and not like really going into the universe and stuff, kind of lame. Uh,
Right. I do. I want to see them elevate this a little bit. I know the motion capture technology isn't quite there, but I do want to see like more involved with like, you know, I want to see more characters. I want to see more like interaction on the field. Like maybe have like obstacles pop up on the field and
yeah,
have them like juking, getting out of the way. Like, maybe the goalposts look different than they're supposed to. I don't know. I want
or
to see
like
them
give
like
it like
really
the
dive into what the
SpongeBob
monster world
treatment
is.
when like they play on like when they did like the SpongeBob game where Patrick got the fucking one coach
Right.
fired, which still happened. That existed.
Oh, I saw that clip the other day and I had to drop everything and just watch it because it was making
It's
me
so
laugh too
good.
hard. Yeah, I will say, out of all of these, I do think Paramount's sort of attempts at them have been the
They
best.
have been the
Even
most
their Super
successful.
Bowl one, even their Super Bowl one, where they throw in like Dora and the Turtles and like a couple auxiliary characters, I do think they put the most production value into it. I think, like, obviously Disney put all of its chips in the motion capture technology, and that's cool. But there is something about like the characters
There's
doing the
something
Muppets
about like
thing of
an
like these characters
overlay and
exist in the
stuff.
real world and they're reacting. Yeah, they're
Ah, a
reacting to
Muppets
what's
game
happening.
overlapping?
I'm actually
That's a
shocked we
game.
haven't gotten that yet.
Dude, give me
There's a lot of
that for
rumblings that
like
Disney's taking
Washington
the Muppets.
versus the Giants or some like two teams that
Oh
nobody cares
God,
about.
right. I do think, yeah, I do think there is like a, I do think
Kim
there's been a
Scattergood
lot
on
of
the
rumblings in the
sideline with
Disney.
Animal.
Oh God, right. Yeah, it's too obvious. I do think Disney's talked about wanting to do more with the Muppets. I do think the whole like closing the 3D ride, I think made them realize like, no, there really is like a very big spending market for the Muppets as
Hmm.
characters. So I think that's a missed opportunity. I'm actually surprised they did Monsters Inc. so soon. I guess that's a testament to the fact that like Monsters Inc. does have a lot of like as a franchise has had a lot of staying power.
Yeah,
And weirdly, it's one of the few IP I can think of from Disney that's done a football thing because there's the joke in Monsters U where like there's like a slime monster running with the ball, and then
yeah.
it gets tackled by a bigger monster, and then it gets tackled by a monster the size of the field. And I'm like, this is why like this is Zootopia. I just love this Borscht Belty like jokes of like, what if this was that?
Yeah.
But I
No.
digress.
Yep, and my don't sleep on game for week 14, I'm guessing Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. Two strong competitors in the same division. It's going to be like a lead decider. Technically, they're both coming into it tied at sixes. So
Actual like when the year is
crazy.
over, we'll be like, dang, that game was important.
Yeah, no, I'm calling it's going to be important now, and I honestly don't care that much on who wins between these two, but
I
yeah,
maintain a part of me just wants the Ravens and the Chiefs to miss the playoffs because I do think the NFL will do dangerous, drastic things to overcompensate for that.
yeah, I
I
think
want to see how sweaty. I want to see how sweaty the NFL can get.
yeah, I think this like the Ravens have the hardest future of the season compared to that Steelers and Bengals, and the Bengals have the easiest.
Hmm.
I think if the Ravens pull one over on the Steelers, and the Steelers could have a couple weird losses that they the Bengals could win.
Hmm.
Yeah, but once again, that's going into that mental gymnastics. What did you put?
I put New Orleans at the Buccaneers for one reason or another. The Saints have really stepped up against their division. I believe they've beaten the Falcons, they've beaten the Panthers, and I do think, despite this being kind of a year from hell, I do think it'd be a really impressive feat to have beaten every team in your division, despite it being. I think that's a good sign for a rebuilding team. Like, can you at least run with your division? Like, can you
Yeah,
at least show, like, hey, when push comes to shove, at least we kind of belong here. We just need more talent.
let's see. They lost to the Bucks week one, so this is their opportunity to do it, but they barely lost. Um,
Exactly.
they let's see. They lost both times to the Panthers, but one was a slaughter.
Oh, I
The
thought they
other
beat
was
the Panthers one.
no. First one 30 to
Oh,
0.
that's
Second
disappointing.
one 30 to 27. So they won't let the
No,
Panthers.
I think you're thinking of the Falcons.
I am thinking of the Falcons. My
You,
bad.
you Palooka.
This has not been
I
my.
knew.
I've been off my game all episode long, man.
Well, I think it really is like we were talking way too much about the Thanksgiving games, and we're like, we have to go double time. Let's go.
Yeah.
We're not spending 2 hours on this week.
Saints have only played the Falcons once and lost. They have beaten the Panthers. They have previously lost to the Bucks, so, but
This is their one chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that that's something you can build on. That's like something you can like the franchise can really. That's how you sell yourself as a coaching staff in your first year, where things didn't necessarily go the way
you were given
would want.
The flaming dumpster itself. You weren't given a lot,
right?
I keep
right. I mean, granted,
that.
there's probably an understanding of like, yeah, this wasn't going to be our year. This is a rebuild year. But at the bare minimum, you have to show something, and competing with your entire division is something.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that like Kellen Moore and stuff have proven enough with what they've been given and dealt with that they don't have to be like worried about their jobs immediately. But if they blow the off season, they're all jobless by the end of next year.
Right. Shall we wrap it up for the week?
Yeah, send them home.
I hope you all had a very restful, happy Thanksgiving, one that was obviously filled with football. And now that we can turn our eyes away from turkey time, gobble gobble, call back to last week, we can really lock in for this last stretch. As December rolls around, we are 3/4 of the way through the football season. So it's time to get serious.